Welcome to the Compassionate Capitalist Podcast Radio. Of course, this is where we bring together entrepreneurs and investors to teach them best practices, share the best practices for launching and growing successful entrepreneur endeavors that bring innovation to the market, create jobs, and create wealth for all those involved. I call it the Compassionate Capitalist Movement. And of course, I'm the host, Karen Rands, and leader of that movement, and also the author of the best-selling book behind me, Inside Secrets to Angel Investing, which is a primer for investors to learn how to, how to get involved and actually figure out how to help entrepreneurs succeed and make money while they're doing that. So, and I'm very excited because my guest today, serial entrepreneur Heather Havenwood, CEO of Havenwood Worldwide, LLC, and Chief Sexy Boss, joins me today on the podcast to talk about so many things. We're going to unpack here in just a few minutes, but I want to let you know that Heather is a highly regarded authority on internet marketing. And since marketing her first online business, bringing together clients and personal coaches back in 1999, she has played an active role in the world of online marketing. Havenwood has been dubbed the icon creator and the wizard behind the curtain by industry insiders, having instructed, coached, and promoted hundreds of successful entrepreneurs. She has produced and managed more than 350 seminars and events and hosted teleseminars with many top online business visionaries, including Tom Antion, Joe Sugarman, Tony Blake, and more. And before turning her energies to Sexy Boss, Havenwood coached men on how women think. With the launch of Sexy Boss Inc., she's turned the tables and teaching women how to play with the big boys in business. Havenwood is the author of Sexy Boss, How the Empowerment of Women is Changing the Rule Book for Money, Success, and Sex. And it is the framework for her coaching program that helps women overcome their fears of launching a business, achieving their full potential, and to set the stage for phenomenal success from the very start. Build your business, build your wealth, live your dream. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Do you ever get that when someone introduces you, you're like, whoa, that's me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who are they talking about? Like, God, that girl sounds cool. Oh, I'm an overachiever, right? So one of those people, like, I just keep going. And then when sometimes people go, oh, you did all this. I'm like, I did. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've had that experience or not, but
I do.
It's not ego. It's very more like, oh, that girl sounds cool. Oh, that's me. And then like, there's never enough, right? That's my overachievement. But thank you. Thank you for so much for having me, Karen. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. So I feel like being here is really supporting you and your mission and what you're creating. Because I do feel like there's more and more men and women helping people really create entrepreneurs is really imperative. And I'm in Austin, Texas, and that's kind of the mecca of that. I say mini mecca, as San Francisco would say.
Yeah.
So excuse me, San Francisco. But yeah, it really is becoming a mini mecca of entrepreneurship. So thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Absolutely. So a lot of times I'll go through and we'll talk about my guest's journey and how you got to where you are. We're going to touch on that a little bit, but sure. I really want to just tell people to go to your websites because you have so much information there available. You have a lot of content when it comes to videos and your podcast that you've been doing for so long. Your podcast is highly successful and highly ranked. So I want to encourage people to go to sexybossinc.com and you'll learn more about what she offers through that here in a few minutes. And then of course, heatherhavenwood.com. as her name, and you can get a lot of her background and understand, all about where you're coming from. And because I really wanted to dig into our topics and the time that we have here today. So out of your book, I've picked 4 of the areas that I think will lead into this concept that, where I think what we're talking about is really, I'm a little bit older than you. So back when I was going through the corporate world of, paving my way, right? There was always this discussion of breaking the glass ceiling. And I think that's an old term that people don't really use anymore, but it's still, and it used to really just a lot apply to corporate world. But now we see as this rise of women in entrepreneurism, even though we're still very much a minority, right. There's other, I'm not sure what the barriers are. We don't really call them glass ceilings because it's not so much that there's somebody at the top that's keeping us from doing it. Because as entrepreneurs, we stand on our own 2 feet and we stand on the shoulders of the team that we build. And so this really just as high as we could go within ourselves, right? So The four things we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to ask you my question.
That's fine.
Taking total ownership over your thoughts, the real definition of sexy, not caring if people think you're a biatch, and branding yourself with class, which is influence is another word that I use as part of that.
Yeah.
So with my set the stage here of this glass ceiling, you having coached men and understanding women.
Yeah.
What made you decide to turn the tables? Because there's a quote that you had on your site that says, before she was a sexy boss, her skills were stunted only by her unwillingness to stop complaining about perceived limitations and wishing her proverbial ship would come in. So you turned your ship. Tell us why you decided to do that, and what, and I think it was 2012 when you wrote your book. So
yeah.
That was before the Me Too movement. So
it was before the Me Too movement. And I got a lot of, can I say the word SHIT on here? I got a lot of crap for it, basically, for the book. A couple reasons. I had people come up to me and say, women don't want to be the sexy and the boss, or you can't be sexy and the boss. You only the boss. You can't be sexy. All kinds of weird stuff like that. I had men come up to me and say, I don't think women want to be a sexy boss. This one particular person said that to me, and I literally was like, really? Because I know your wife. She would not say that. I know who runs your household. So, I know too much about you for you to say that to me. So I think one of the things that I'm seeing right now in today's world is that, yes, women are kind of getting this conversation. We're allowed to have a voice, but here's something that's kind of interesting, Karen. We are now getting permission to have a voice. There's truth in that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been such a lack of understanding how to use the voice that the voice in many cases is getting drowned out by sounding like complaining. Right. And it's just like almost this kind of like a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old kind of coming out now and like, I have a voice, and the first time a 5 or 6-year-old figures out they can talk and someone's actually listening to them, they're like, what? I could control my parents. That's the first, kind of a childish way right now. And what I see is missing is what I call really helping women become leaders and stepping into being a leader and using the voice to move something, to impact something, to take something beyond what they thought was possible, not a complaint of. Now that there's space for us to, not to be esoteric on you, but just to go there for a second, not almost like an opening of just opening of a space and saying, hey, I now can have a voice. What am I going to use it for? Am I going to use it to complain about the old structure, or am I going to use it to actually forward a conversation? Right. So like with you in the VC, you really moving something forward. Like you're a stand for something, you're moving something forward. What's actually the impact of that? Well, now you paving that way for someone like myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's doing this with VC. I would love to be part of that community. You opened that doorway for me and provided kind of a safe harbor for me to ask questions and like lean in with that, and that's one of the challenges I see for myself included. I mean, like I'm raising my hand too. If you can't see me, I'm raising my hand. I had to figure out, how do I bring my own ship in by myself? And the analogy I have with that is it's literally like a ship. Like, I had to jump ship and I had to be on my own ship. That's kind of my analogy. I'm a Game of Thrones girl, so I feel like I'm Khaleesi on my own ship. Anyway, and I don't have my men yet. I don't have my studs who are behind me. My little Khaleesi outfit there. But I mean, really, how do I do that? Because when you kind of own your own ship per se and say, this is the trail I'm on, people do begin to show up. It's the old adage, and I've said this many times before recently, like when you find your voice, your tribe will follow. But you got to find your voice, and you got to find a voice that you feel resonates within yourself, and it's not a complaint of. What's fascinating in the last 24 hours, no kidding, this is just so true. Last 24 hours, I've had 2 conversations with men who've reached out to me. One I've known for many years and highly respect in a particular field. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I want to look at what that looks like to do a partner with you, because we're realizing there's like very few women in this one of our businesses. And I was like, well, yeah. And like, I've known that for a while. But it was like, okay, great. What does that look like? And he was like, I don't know. I just am realizing that we are really helping entrepreneurs and we're not helping women entrepreneurs at the level that we can. How can we work together? And it was kind of like, I don't know, I'm open to exploring what this looks like with you. And he was like, great, let's continue the conversation. And then I had one earlier today. He was like, you know, he's in blockchain. He said, we realized that we're pretty much doing all these conversations with men and there's this huge gap with women. And so I'm reaching out to you of like, how can we work together to really help women come into blockchain? I'm like, I'm open. Let's figure that out too. So I can be a stand for more women to be interested and whatnot. Same thing to you, right? As what you're doing, what you're creating. So I think that's the change now. We have to go from complaining to actually impacting. And that's the shift we're in. We're kind of what I call in the middle of that shift.
Well, that probably leads into this idea of your thoughts. I know that was my biggest challenge when I was in the corporate world, was overcoming my thought, my cycle of thoughts that I had, and redoing my voice inside of how I perceived things and how I responded to issues or whatever was happening. And not take it like, you know, you talked about the this about, you know, these, you know, like thinking of it as an obstacle, where it's really not an obstacle because it hadn't stopped you yet, right? It's not an obstacle till it's actually stopped you. And then you step back, you figure out how to get around it. But if it's a perception of an obstacle, it's not really an obstacle, right? And so,
yeah, I think another way to say what you're saying, just kind of restating it, is like, we are our worst enemy, right? So if we ever put our mind on loudspeaker all the time, it would sound really bad. You remember that old movie with I forgot his name, Helen Hunt was in it, and there was the guy advertising exec, he all of a sudden can hear women's voices. He can actually hear what women think.
yeah.
Do you remember that? Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Mel Gibson was and I love that movie because he was like running in New York Park, right? And all these women are passing him, just like running and being silent, but he can hear all the voices that they're saying to themselves. And, you know, the whole movie was about the fact that he could hear that. But one of the things I remember with that specific movie is that, you know, we are really hard on ourselves, and women are very hard on ourselves. And we're very hard on other women too, way more than men will ever be. And I've talked about this before, and in my book is that we were not trained. We were not trained since, I don't know about you, where you come from, but I come from a Southern Houston, you know, got to be nice and cute and sweet and pretty all the time. And that's what you were rewarded. I was rewarded to be cute and sweet and nice.
My thing was not laugh too loud was a big part of it. If it was unladylike to laugh loud, and I like to laugh.
Right. Yeah. So like,
you know.
Yeah. Okay. So yours is laugh. Mine was like having a voice and saying what I thought. And mine was like constantly be nice. Now be nice, you know, and I love this story because it's just, and I bet you have something similar, but it gives you an idea. And I tell women all this time, you're not really up against society. You're up against a social construct of what a woman is supposed to look and sound like that's been here for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So even though the Me Too movement's here, we're still up against generational conversations for thousands of years. Right?
Right.
And the story of that goes, just because it's so perfect. I was in second grade, right? Second grade. I'm like, what am I, 7 or something? And I had to go potty, right? I'm in the seat like a good little girl, and I'm raising my hand, and I'm waiting for Miss George. And I love Miss George. She was my babysitter sometimes during the weekend. So I'm like raising my hand, Miss George. I don't know what she's doing. She's ignoring me. And I couldn't hold anymore. And I pee in my pants. I pee right there. Boom. Right? Pee all over the floor. Now I'm embarrassed. Now I got to call my mom and get new clothes. Right, this whole thing. So I remember after hours of all that drama, we're sitting back in the room with my mother and Miss George. And Miss George looks at me all innocently and goes, well, sweetheart, you know, because I'm from Texas, sweetheart, why didn't you just go to the bathroom? And I said, but Miss George, you told me never to leave my seat without your permission. I'm confused. Which one is it? Well, for that kind of thing, you're allowed to. Well, now I'm confused, right? So in that moment, it's like, who do I listen to? What's right? What's wrong? I want to be a good girl because I'm rewarded for that, because I don't want to be a bad girl because I'm not rewarded for that. I'm actually shunned for that. So, but now I'm ashamed. I'm sitting here peeing in my pants, right? So which one is it? That's entrepreneurship right there, right? You want to go for something, but you're waiting for that permission. And then you don't do it. And then you feel ashamed that you didn't do it. And then boom, someone else did. You're like, what the hell? Well, why did you ask for permission? Because I was told to ask for permission since I was 6 years old to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? So I think that's what we're up against. And
It's
that's what I'm up
validation.
against in my head every single day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We seek validation from external sources rather than internal, which I think, I'm waiting to hear what your definition of sexy is, but
Yes.
um,
Love that.
I think that as I've come to identify it is it's confidence. I think sexy women are confident women that, and when it comes to being a CEO of a company, and it's what I've learned over the years when investors look at women that are asking for money, they really want to see their confidence, because that's where they can trust them. Their employees can trust them because they know that they'll make a decision that's well thought of and follow through on it, but they have confidence to not second guess themselves and stuff. So is that fall in line with your definition of sexy, or is it,
So my definition of sexy boss, like together, comes from actually two areas. So one of them, the boss area, is like being the boss of all areas of your life: health, wealth, spiritual, mental, physical, all of it. Like really owning your life, being responsible for your life fully in all areas of your life. The sexy part comes from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, Chapter 7, Sex Transmutation, which
yes.
if you look at, which is the number one underread chapter in the entire book.
Well, it's hard to wrap your head around. It's deep.
It's really deep. In fact, last night I was talking to a friend of mine and I was actually reading some of the chapter to him, and he was like, that's deep, But people don't read the book because the name sounds weird, Sex Transmutation. So I'm not going to go into philosophical with you, but I'll give you like a cliff note version of it. Basically, the sexual energy, which is the energy that we get to be God for a moment, called we get to procreate. We create another human being. It's our moment where we create a human being on this planet, another spirit, right? So what are the possibilities of sexual sensual energy? The sexual energy, the life force in us, is being able to create worlds and business and creation. And he talks about no great artist or inventor or musician they all had high sexual energy, high life force. They had to, because it's immediately connected to a higher self. It's what I call downloads, or how infinite intelligence, or God, or however you want to like spiritualize that. Right. But most of the inventions, I'm talking like massive inventions, or Steve Jobs, I can go into today's world, right? Or, Einstein, all of it. Einstein talks about, he got thoughts, he got things, he got flashes of information. It didn't come from his brain. It came from a different intelligence. That's the sexual energy. That's been what I call honed or allowed out with men. Right? We call that charismatic energy. When a man walks in the room, he's like, who's that guy? Hello, woo, who's that guy? There's an energy to that person. He has a life force, the sexual energy. We call that charismatic. With a woman, when she has that life force, when she steps into a room and she's like, hello, I own this, like J-Lo, love J-Lo. She might be considered in a business setting, corporate setting, as a biatch, or how dare she, or tone it down, or don't be so like that, or we don't like your dress. Whatever it comes out as, it's the sexual energy, it's a life force that is really high that people don't like because it's confronting for them, because most people have shut that part of them down. But it's actually the creation. It's the piece that all entrepreneurs and artists and creators and inventors and artists, all those people need to be able to tap into. That's the sexy part. And I can't say that, and I can't create a book called Sex Transmutation. That would never work, right? But sexy boss is saying, I'm restating that entire book, that entire chapter in my book.
Oh, yes. Well, let
Without
me,
saying, I mean, I do point it out, like I give credit to the book, right? But if you read the
okay.
book, it's very he, because it was written in the 30s.
Yeah. Well, then that kind of leads into that whole idea of perception as a biatch, right?
Yeah.
Is it because of that men are threatened by that sexiness, that they own their selves and their presence in the space, and so they go to that thing versus being actually sexually attracted to them?
So I'll take it to a different direction. Yes and no, right? It's a great question, by the way. I love your questions because they're like really good. So a couple things with that. So I'll speak esoterically. So Beyonce and J Lo and Madonna, these are big names in the artist world, right? I call them all sexy bosses. They've owned who they are. They're creators in themselves. They're definitely sexy bosses in the connection, right? But look at them. They're artists. It's allowed in that space. They're musicians. They're artists. They're dancers. You can be sexy. You put that in the corporate world. You put that in the corporate room, in the boardroom. No. Right? That's what I'm talking about. It's like, how do you transfer that sexual energy, allow that out, that power out in the corporate boardroom in such a way that people don't try to kill it off, or they can get behind it and support it. That's the transition we're in right now. How do women walk into a room and own the space and say, I own who I am, I own my voice, I own my words, without being a bitch or coming across that way, without being like castrating other people, but with actually coming from a place of love and contribution and value and a voice. I mean, how do you do that? And honestly, that's been my journey. I'm now at a place where I can walk into any room like that and have a voice in the matter. And whatever their response is, I'm like, awesome. You know, I just 6 months ago, I had a conversation with somebody on accident, and he walked right up to me and said, Heather, I'll tell you why you have no value with us and why you haven't been invited to any of the masterminds, because he's had these masterminds for 10 years. And I finally called him out on it. And he said, the reason why you haven't been invited is because you have no value. You help women entrepreneurs. There's no value in that. That was like 6 months ago.
Really?
He said that to my face, in my eyes. And I looked at him and I smiled really big. And I was like, thank you. And I walked away, because what I got from that was, thank you. Thank you for finally saying what's been there for you for 10 years. I knew that was there, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Right. And so it was like, thank you for finally showing me who you are. Thank you. Because now that I know who you are, I can, what I said, acknowledge it, but not accept it in my life.
Right.
Right. And I just saw him the other day at an event. I see him all the time. Right. And so I just now know who he is. I know where he stands in the matter. Right. It's like when you find out someone politically, like you know where they stand. You can make them wrong. You can kill them off. You can tell them how horrible they are, Trump supporters or whatever they are, not a matter. Or you can go, okay, I know where you stand and that you're not supportive of me. And that's where women really need to get to, when they can finally see where people stand versus like, how dare they stand on that side of the room or that side of the fence or that side of the viewpoint, and just accept it. However, don't have to accept it in their life. That's the difference.
It kind of goes back to the comment you made earlier about the validation of yourself. And so where I was talking about where it's and so when you see a person for their true colors, and you acknowledge that you may have thought that was an obstacle because you had to be part of that mastermind group, and then you come to realize, well, no, I can go create my own mastermind group with really great people that can achieve the success that he's doing over here. I don't need his validation. I don't need him to help me be successful. I can do that on my own. I think a lot of women, I mean, as a whole, I mean, I've been connecting with women on LinkedIn here lately that are starting this Black Girls Who Code, or, they're starting all these different things where they just said, like you have been saying, I don't need your permission. I can go and do this on my own. And when you have that realization and you stop playing that tape in your head that you need somebody else's validation or need this, like another boss or something like that, and you can be your own sexy boss, then that's when you break free. There's really nothing that can stop you. It's just a matter of how do you get it done.
Yeah, it's when I call it when you give yourself full permission to fail is when you give yourself full permission to succeed.
Yeah.
And that right there is hard for women. Most women are perfectionists. They gotta get things right. They gotta know. And just to give you an idea of that, so it's been shown that women in relationships, like you might call man-woman relationships or whatever, like romantic relationships, okay, they have to know. They love through knowing. They do the same thing in business. They have to know. They got to know the path. They got to know the path. They got to know the path. Men don't. Men love through wondering and like kind of exploration of. They do that in business too. Like they fall in love with a business, or they choose a business, or they choose down a path of a business because they're like discovering and wondering. And so we do business differently, just like we love differently, right? So that's the challenge, is women like need permission, right? And that's the thing. I feel like if I could cut anything through, it's like stop asking for permission. My next book is Unapologetically Fierce. That's the next book I'm focused on. And it's like, that's all about that.
Yeah.
I mean, even though, I mean, my mother's no longer on this planet, and it's me and my sister, and that's it. And my dad's not in my life, but I still hear he was very negative towards women. He did not like women. He hated women, actually. So I still hear his voice, the negatives. You can't do that. You're a woman. You're not supposed to be an entrepreneur. Your job is to basically get married and have babies. That's it, period. I mean, I was bred to breed. That was, I was bred to be a Baptist woman in Houston and breed. So like, that's what I was bred. I'm doing none of that. But I mean, so that was the path I was supposed to be choosing, right? And I'm going in this left field. And when you have people in your life who are your family call you and go, hey, I heard you're being an entrepreneur. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. Aren't you an entrepreneur, uncle? And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm a man, and stuff like that. You're like, where do you get that permission? Yeah. You get it within yourself. You have to look in the mirror and go, I give yourself permission to succeed. And even when for me, it was boyfriends and ex-boyfriends and now 3 ex-fiancés all said, we love how powerful you are, but now that we're together, you need to stop.
Yes. So, okay, we got a few more minutes here, and I want to just touch on it while we can, about branding yourself. So
yeah, that's fun. Yeah. Sorry, so esoteric on you.
Yeah, no, that's good. And this is, it's used to be, you joined the Rotary or the Chamber or something like that. You sort of established your influence, but in this world of the internet, you're not just your community unless you're, something that only your customers come from your community. If you go beyond anything beyond your community, if you want to try to create a world-class business, then you must have a world-class brand and influence. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. If you're this is a big one. If you are a small business today, you have to step into being a media company, period. And that's bad news or good news. Okay. And media company means to be able to go from expert to influence. There's a bridge now happening.
Yeah.
People don't really want experts. They want influencers in the field. Right. So maybe my eye doctor is an expert, but who do we really want? We want the eye doctor that's an influencer in the eye doctor space, right? Or whatever. Right. So how do you make that transition? And how you make that transition is you step into your voice and start to have say in the matter, have an opinion about it, have context in the matter, create content. Let's put it in layman's terms, create content. Right? So the more content you put out there in the world, let's say online, social media world, is a direct correlation to your value in the marketplace. Well, let's go 101. So Jim Rohn, I love Jim Rohn. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Jim Rohn says you're paid for your value in the marketplace. That was in the 80s. Right. So what's your value back then? It was good old fashioned, going to Chamber of Commerce meetings and knowing people and the value of your network. You probably heard of that, right? Back in the day, as I went to good old fashioned Rotary meetings, stuff like that. But nowadays your value in the marketplace is directly correlated to the amount of content and the quality of content that's out there with your specific opinion. There's a correlation to that. There's like a graph to that. So when people are sitting there like, well, I'm on LinkedIn or I'm on social media, and I'm in this expert in this field. I'm like, well, where can I see that you're an expert? Where can I consume you as an expert on some level? Do you have videos? Do you have white papers? Do you have this? Do you have that? And the answer usually is no. I'm like, well, your value in the marketplace is low then, until you can get your value in the marketplace up. So in the university setting, in the faculty setting, they have white papers and all kinds of things that they actually show their value by all the different researchers and things like that. You and I mean, I'm not in that world, the faculty or university world, so I have no clue. But inside their circle, right, inside their world, there's specific faculty members around the country that are known by their research. It's the same concept, though. It's just now it's on public online. So the more value you on the marketplace, AKA more influence, AKA make more money, you need to be able to add more content in the world. Hope that made sense.
It did. It did. Absolutely.
And you're doing that now. You're creating networks, you're creating people, you're connecting people. That adds value in the marketplace, right? That is all value in the marketplace.
So
period.
Great. Okay, so as final comments, how would you like to offer folks to come and sign up for something?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of things they can do. They can go to sexybossinc.com, or they can go to askheatherann.com. So askheatherann.com is actually my chatbot. They can feel free to reach out to me there and directly connect with me, set up a call. And then I'm also giving away free chapters of my book. They can text the word Heather to 72,000. That's Heather to 72,000. And with that, they actually get a free chapter of my book.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And you also, for if anybody wants to do these things in podcasts and get into the circuit of being a guest, you've got it's only 99 cents, your Kindle book on how to be a good media guest. So
yes, it is. I need to change that.
Well, I got it before you changed it. So.
Right. I'm like, wait, is it still 99 cents? I changed that. Yeah, it is. But there is actually some videos out there. I teach people how to be better guests in media. Yeah. Give yourself your views. Yeah. So thanks. I'm looking in my head like, oh my God, is it really 99 cents? I need to change. So probably will be changed by the time this goes out.
And then they have to go subscribe to your YouTube or go do your text thing, and then they'll get a chapter. So. And
all my social media is under Heather Havenwood. So I'm really heavy on Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are my two big ones. So if you want to connect with me or see what I'm up to, it's really Heather Havenwood on Instagram. And just want to share real quick, if you don't mind, do I have like a minute?
I think so. I'm not sure if it's going to shut us down here or not, how this works exactly. We run out of time, or it just continues going over. So
okay, I'll go we'll
give it a shot. It's still recording right now, so we're good.
So one of the things that I've been doing lately, and just as a woman, like I just did a huge boudoir photo shoot, and I share about that because I want every woman to experience themselves as feeling sexy no matter what. Because there is kind of this view, if you're an artist, you can show your body. If you're a model, you can. But if you're in business, it's like this whole taboo thing. And I think that there's starting to be an understanding of like being able to tap into your wholeness of who you are as an entrepreneur, no matter what. So I just want to share that with you, and it's on Instagram, and I share my story around it and why I did it and why I want more women to step into that power of owning who they are on all areas of their life, not just like their mindset, right? But all areas of their life. It's really important.
And you have a video on YouTube talking about getting into that, or
yes,
that or something like that.
I do have one of those. I have a few of those actually, because I've been so ashamed. People have shamed me for so long. You can be boss, but you can't be sexy. And so there's this like, yes, you can be both. You really can have it all. You really can step into that power. The book Think and Grow Rich tells you that you can. And I want to be hopefully an opening of a path to be able to do that. You don't have to be Beyonce or J-Lo to be sexy.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that permission.
Yes, you're welcome. You have full permission to be sexy.
So, all right, as we wrap up, again, you can get everything about me at KarenRands.co, and also my social media, other than my Instagram is Compassionate Capitalist, is under Karen Rands as well. And I want to remind everybody to go to sexybossinc.com or heatherhavenwood.com, and also to text Heather to 72,000 so you can get a copy of one of her chapters of her book. So thank
Thanks.
you very much for being on the show, Heather. It's been delightful, and I look forward to so much more to come.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, great.